next up, we have Heather. Hi, Heather, who's a children's OT manager from Blackburn, and has been involved with our network group on or kind of community of practice on behaviours of concern. Before we dive into that, do you want to just give a little intro in terms of your role at Blackburn, Heather?
Yeah, so I'm the Children's OT Manager at Blackburn and Darwen Council. So our team uh, cover the equipment and adaptations aspect of the occupational therapy service in the area, and then we've got a health team that we work alongside. So I've been attending this group since it started, I think, and it's been great for me coming into this post and having that support.
Excellent. So, can you tell us a little bit about the community of practice and what the benefits have been for you to be part of it?
As I was preparing for this, I wrote a list because I thought I don't want to forget anything that's really important. So I'm going to go through my list, and
Okay.
there were just so many things, really. I suppose, yeah, I can go on and on forever, really. But the main things, I suppose, are that we're able to access a wealth of experience from our colleagues and other practitioners working in other areas, which has been an amazing opportunity, really, for learning. It feels like the space is a reflective, a supervision space where we can come together, ask questions, support one another with difficult cases. It's connected people like from right across the country. So whereas before you might have felt like maybe a couple of years ago, before everybody started doing things online more, you would feel quite isolated in your area, or you might just join up with somebody, in the next town every now and again. But now we've just got that access to other people across the country, which really gives you a broad understanding of how different areas do it differently. So that's certainly been a benefit to me. When I came into this post a couple of years ago, um, I had mainly done most of my career has been in adult services, and I moved into children's. And of course, with the increase in these types of referrals for behaviours of concern, everybody's starting to see more of this type of work coming through. But it was certainly something that I needed to upskill on quickly and learn. And without having that opportunity to kind of go through all those case trial and errors yourself and all those cases, we get the benefit of that from the group because there's so much shared learning in terms of case studies, what people have tried before and what's not worked. So I feel like we're just a period of accelerated learning where you could just jump ahead a little bit and say, well, we know that doesn't work because such a body from Birmingham said it last week. They've already done it or whatever. So it's been useful for that. Um, we've shared loads of resources as well between the people that have been on the group. Um, People have been really willing to share like paperwork, risk assessments, information leaflets that's already been done. So everybody's not reinventing the wheel all the time. Learning how other services are set up in different areas. So who's got learning disability team, who has an autism team, who has different services that can support, and how do they get through these cases? Um, have I missed anything? Just to say that the space is actually really, it's non-judgmental and no question's a silly question. And there's a full range of experience there from people with lots of different backgrounds, some that are new to this area, some that have been doing it for a long time. And it feels like somewhere that you can just ask a question if you're not sure and get an answer really quickly. You've always got the forum to fall back on when there's not a meeting. So again, people can post questions, and everybody is just a really wonderful community, really, of support.
Good. I mean, that's really good. I mean, um, it's one of a number of networks that we run. I think the Behaviours and Concern Group is probably the most active. And if Dan, if you could pop a link to the network in the chat for people to join. But there are other networks there for kind of technical officers, OTs, different regions of the country, as well as behaviours of concern. But in terms of this particular group, Heather, are there any kind of particular things that you've kind of learned or has kind of fed into your daily work at Blackburn?
Yeah, so certainly a knowledge of products around behaviours of concern. We've shared a lot of information on that between ourselves when we've talked about different cases. So things like like window protectors, radiator covers. There's been things about fences and locks, and it's been good because often an OT will know what they need to do. They might know what the solution is, but they might not have ever found a product before, and they don't want to get it wrong because we're all stretched for time. We want to do it right this time, so we can say, "Oh, we found this. Is it this something that's will be useful?" And somebody else will say, "Well, actually, we tried that and it didn't work for us because." It broke after 6 months. So maybe you could try this. This works really well, or this is a bit cheaper. So we've had that. Again, the case studies, I know we're probably going to talk about some case studies later, so I'll give some examples, but the case studies have been brilliant learning opportunities, really. And in particular, what I've learned about is how sometimes we can put things in too quickly, and that can just mean that if the behaviour's not been fully understood, that actually it might trigger some other behaviours that you're then dealing with. So it's really taking the time to explore all those other options. So the good thing is that people will share where things haven't gone quite as well or where they've learned from and going to adjust. And again, it means that not everybody has to go through the same pain. We're all learning from each other. The importance of MDT working and your collaborative decision making, what's just been mentioned earlier, and just how we all know it's important, but having that backup to say, actually, you shouldn't be making these decisions on your own. It should be a team decision for a lot of the things that we're talking about, especially when it comes to restrictive practice. And just making sure as well, it is a DFG group after all, that we're working within the legislation. And when we need to go outside of that and look at different options. So it keeps us on track, I think. That's the main learning.
So I guess kind of the majority of DFGs are still kind of shower, stair lifts, and ramps. So that this, in terms of the overall program, is still a minority. But I think it can be one of the kind of most challenging areas to deliver DFGs within. You kind of mentioned case studies, Heather. Are there any kind of particularly stood out for you as kind of interesting case studies that have been discussed by the group?
Yeah, so there's been a few. We had one just a few weeks ago. I don't know if Rachel's on the call, but it was one that generated a lot of discussion, shall we say. And our team brought that particular case study. And it was a family that we wanted to provide some downstairs facilities for, but they were really keen to keep the dining room space. And I think historically in DFG world, we've always been told or steered to use that second reception room or that dining room to create a bedroom downstairs. And we know the DFG doesn't cover the purpose of creating a dining room. So we're like, right, let's find out what everybody feels about this and what other areas would do. What do they think is important in terms of should we be keeping that dining room space? It's actually really important for this family. Should we be extending? That's going to cost more money. And where does everybody sit with that? So that was a really interesting discussion because it really just showed to me that we didn't come to a conclusion at the end. There was no unanimous decision, but it showed that everybody's got all these different views that could input into it, and actually just showing that you've been through this process of considering all the different aspects of a case. You've had that team support and everybody's input around legislation, guidance, best practice. You're able to come up and formulate a plan. So that was a really good one. We've also talked about one where there was a child that was really unsafe on the stairs and they were doing a lot of spinning behaviours. And in reality, it was probably a case that we could have worked with that child, or somebody, a team could have worked with that child, the family, to maybe address those behaviours. But in this particular case, the family had five other siblings, the child had five other siblings, and the reality was mum was never, a single parent, mum was never going to be able to do that. So what do we do about that? And it was all about downstairs living. There was another case that somebody else brought, which I certainly learnt a lot from myself because it was more from a sensory perspective. And it was an OT that was looking at a bathroom adaptation. I can't remember all the details, but the summary of it was, I think that they couldn't, the child didn't want to go into the bathroom at home, but would go into the grandma's bathroom, which was a lot bigger. So we thought that it would probably needed to have a bigger bathroom at home. But somebody on the call had a lot of experience in sensory work. And they were saying, well, first of all, it might be that grandma's bathroom's just got more frilly things in, more towels, less hard surfaces, and these are some of the things that you can try first. And that really stuck with me for some of the other cases that we've been able to apply it to at work. So there are three interesting ones, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and it sounds like you've kind of perhaps come away with different points of view after the meeting compared to maybe what you went in with before.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, from your perspective, Heather, is it kind of anything that you'd like the kind of group to cover or kind of develop in the future? And anything that would be particularly useful for you on top of what it's doing already?
So a couple of ideas that I had, just based on how useful I've found it from a supervision point of view and supporting being able to access that resource. Um, One thing that I thought would be good is if there was a more formal supervision platform, maybe that people could join and bring shared cases, especially people that might be working in smaller teams, or there's quite a few OTs that seem to just be working on their own in isolation. And it would be good if they didn't have to wait for the next group, they could just go and discuss. So that was an idea. And again, I think you're probably kind of working on that with some of the things you're doing, but some of the documentation that we've shared between ourselves, it'd be really good if there was a standard for certain things that not everybody would have to necessarily buy into, but if it was on the platform somewhere where there were some information leaflets that you could give out to your 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 service users, children, family, adults, whoever it is, with the little logo on of foundations, this is an official document that we've got, and maybe some assessment tools as well. That would be great.
Great, thank you. So, for those of you that are interested in joining the community practice, if you scroll a little bit back up the comments feed, you'll find the links there. If you've got a gov.uk email address, it lets you straight in. Otherwise, we just can check you first, make sure you're not some sort of rogue person clicking in and joining the group, infiltrating the group. So there's kind of two elements to it, as kind of Heather was saying. There's like kind of an online forum where you can make posts and get people to kind of comment and feedback, which is, I suppose, kind of similar in some ways to the DFG Champions Facebook group, if you're already a member of that. But we also have, I think, every 2 or 3 months, there's an online meeting where the group we get together and discuss particular topics. I think there kind of are options to maybe kind of have a open forum every so often as well. So yeah, we will look into that as well. There are a couple of questions. There seems to be quite a discussion about AstroTurf going on in the chat. So we may come back to that a little bit later. But for now, Heather, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.